Hey there, everyone. Hope you're having a good day so far. Hopefully you saw my announcement. I was a bit worried about the school's Wi-Fi working today. On Monday morning, we're first period, the first day back at school. Our Wi-Fi has never been tested the way that it will be today. And so for that reason, I decided that I didn't want to chance it and that I would make a video explanation. This way you can pause, review, and move anywhere along the video that suits your needs. But before we get started, I'm going to need you to pause this video, and go to under Monday's assignment. I'm going to need you to click on Ending Modern Slavery and Human Trafficking. This is the speech that I am going to create all of my examples from, and that I plan on writing my rhetorical analysis on. So in order for my examples to make sense to you, you're going to need to familiarize yourself with the content of this speech. So I recommend watching it. The text of the speech is right below. It is 15 minutes to watch. So I guess just kind of hunker down somewhere and pay attention very carefully to what Ashton Kutcher is saying. But right now, I need you to pause the video, this video, and go to Ashton Kutcher's speech and watch the content of it. So pause me now. Okay, welcome back. Now what we're going to do, if we take a look at today's assignments or content of the video lesson, we're going to talk about close engagement of a text. Now, I have shared with you that I am going to kind of double dip with the summary of a text short project writing assignment and the rhetorical analysis major project writing assignment. We're going to double dip with those. So even though I haven't even given you major project 2's kind of explanation and due dates and all that good stuff, I haven't given that content to you yet. We're going to do a lot of the front loading of the work for the summary assignment, and a lot of the stuff that you will be doing to prepare for that assignment will also be in preparation for the major project number 2. So that's why we're spending quite a bit of time with this. So I want to draw your attention to a few documents that you have access to. So there's a discussion board. You'll see that. Okay, so if you click to close engagement with a text and explanation of the steps, you will see this. Okay, we are going to work today on steps 1, 2, and 3. So here we go. You'll first, with your speech, you'll need to watch and or obviously read your speech. For the purposes of my example, you have watched Ashton Kutcher's speech. That's step 1, is just to like know the content of the speech. Step 2 is to research the speaker. Now, you may know obvious information, like I knew that Ashton Kutcher was an actor. I think I did know that he had a twin brother that was a fraternal twin who had some kind of medical ailment. But I know he divorced Demi Moore and was married to Mila Kunis. It was on That 70s Show. I knew that basic information, but I didn't know other information. So I needed to research him and his life. So specifically, I needed to research the aspects of his life that contributed to his work with Thorn and his reason for even writing this speech. What in his life contributes to that part of his life? And to be honest, it wasn't the fact that he was an actor at all. That is negligible in terms of contributing to what his work is. So I'm going to share that example with you. Step 3, and we've been working with this, is to identify the rhetorical situation. So I want you to research do writer, subject, audience, exigence, purpose, genre, and text. So looking at those elements that contribute to the rhetorical situation. Now, I'm going to give you my example. So I got my example, all my information from just researching. In fact, I'll go ahead and all I did was I typed in Ashton Kutcher early life, because I wanted to know information above and beyond what I already knew, which was he was an actor, who he's married to, and a little bit of tidbit information. But I needed to find out what about his life likely contributes to his work with Thorne, and even the reason why he spoke in front of the committee. So I don't like Wikipedia. The only thing I like about Wikipedia is the primary sources that are at the bottom of the entry, but I don't trust Wikipedia in terms of like anyone can make any additions to a Wikipedia entry and it just be considered fact. So I was not going to do that. Then IMDb is a pretty good source. There were all kinds of, I saw a lot, but like I was stuck on this one, biography.com. I'm familiar with their work. I've watched biography documentaries. So I took a look at this and I was like, I'm going to take a look further. And what I found out was from his early life, a bit of information. Another thing I like about biography.com, if your speaker or author of your speech has an entry, this is one thing that I really like at the very bottom. It has this stuff, citation information, which makes it really easy to do an MLA 8 works cited bibliographical entry. So anything that I use that's not common knowledge that I didn't know prior, if I end up using any reference for this in my rhetorical analysis, then I need to cite it. So I liked that little bit of information there. Okay, so I read through this, basically, focusing on early life, and this is what I came up with. Things that I thought were relevant leading up to his speech. He has a fraternal twin brother who has, and I found out it's cerebral palsy, and he suffers from a heart defect. He got some type of virus when he was, I think, 14 or so, or an early teenager, and had to have major surgery. He also has an older sister, so there are 3 of them. His parents are factory workers, or they were when he was growing up, which I thought that contributed to his work, because he talks in his speech about being a public school, like a product of public school. And he comes from working class American family. And his parents were factory workers. You can't get more blue collar than that. And so I'm sure that contributed to his upbringing and by extension where he is today. His parents divorced when he was 13. And here's what I thought was contributing to building to the speech. He and his siblings went to go live with their mom. So his mom was a single mother for a while. He talks a lot about, his human rights and respect for women. And I think that probably comes from his experience living with his mom. They are from Homestead, Iowa, which is a small rural town that's mostly agrarian, so it's mostly like crops and farmland. So he is from small town life. He's not a metropolitan or cosmopolitan type fellow. At his roots, at his core. He went to the University of Iowa and studied biochemical engineering. Now, I thought that was important because he's a smart guy, and if you can't tell from his speech, he is very articulate. And I know he gets typecast on a lot of his films as kind of being like the dumb jock or kind of the dumb guy, but that's very counter to who he is in real life. He had a global modeling career. He modeled for agencies that were such, high fashion modeling clients. And I do think that his modeling career enabled him to be well-traveled, which means that he's seen parts of the world that many people have not. And so with that kind of global mindset, I thought that very likely contributes as well to kind of where he is today. Married twice, Demi Moore, Mila Kunis. He's a television and film actor. And I just took this quote directly from biography.com because I thought it might be useful to me later. In 2009, Kutcher and Moore founded DNA Foundation, later renamed Thorn, a human rights organization aimed at stopping human trafficking and the sexual exploitation of children. That year, he also made history by having the first Twitter account to attract 1 million followers. So the fact that he has famous wives and that he's a television and film actor, he is using his platform as a famous person in pop culture to gain traction for his message of ending modern slavery and human trafficking. Okay, so that's step 2 of close engagement with the text. It's very important to know about the speaker, that nuance information that contributes to the reason why they are delivering their speech in the first place, the reason for their exigence, for their urgency. Okay, so then if you look at the close engagement, it's identify the rhetorical situation. So research the context of the speech and identify the writer, subject, audience, purpose, exigence, text, and genre. What is going on that is relevant to the situation and that contributes to the occasion of the speech and or its sense of urgency? Consider both the immediate and extended audiences and purposes. Immediate is also sometimes called primary audience, and then extended audience is also sometimes called secondary audience. Okay, so my example, I came up with, so who's the writer? Ashton Kutcher, and I put down father and entrepreneur and chairman of Thorn. I didn't put down Ashton Kutcher, famous actor, because that aspect of his life, other than the popularity that he has in using that platform to gain traction for his message, that is negligible in terms of importance for his message. What's the subject? Modern slavery and human trafficking. Who is the primary or immediate audience? It's the United States Senate Foreign Relations Committee. That is exactly who he's talking to. That's the primary audience, elected officials. But the secondary audience, the people who are, because this was televised, and there are people within the audience. So he isn't only talking to the committee, he is also talking to the American people who are voters, constituents of those elected officials. Those elected officials know that the American people are watching, and they're going to expect results. Okay, so the initial purpose, I went through and I looked at what is Kutcher wanting from the committee, and he has 4 things. He wants financing. He wants to continue to foster private and public partnerships. He wants to fix the inbound and outbound pipeline. He talks specifically about the foster care system and the lack of help for people as they leave human trafficking or as they leave at-risk groups that make them vulnerable to human trafficking. And he wants different legislation to separate human trafficking from labor trafficking. Those are the things he outlines in his speech that he wants to get out of his primary audience. Now, the secondary audience, the people, the American people, the voters who are watching this speech as it's delivered to the committee, he wants to bring awareness of the problem. He wants to put pressure on elected officials to make sure that his primary purposes are achieved. And he wants to end human trafficking. Let's face it, human trafficking isn't a problem if we don't have customers. And if there are, as long as there are men out there who are willing to pay for and purchase a human being, there is going to be a problem. So he is drawing attention to this issue. Then what is the exigence? The urgency, the catalyst for the need for this speech is that there is an alarming increase in human trafficking incidents on the local, national, and global level. And I don't know if you guys know this, but I had a student last year who did her research paper on human trafficking. And Our area right here in northern Kentucky is a pipeline for human trafficking, specifically the area right off north, I-71 North, near the Kroger in, I think is it the Fort Mitchell Kroger? Because its closeness, like, because of its proximity to a network of interstates. So there is a heightened danger there. I guarantee that there are human trafficking homes in neighborhoods in northern Kentucky that feed into this problem. And there's a lot of research to show that it's a problem. Now, I was curious as to just what are the statistics out there. So I typed in human trafficking statistics. You can see right there in my Google search. Now it popped up scholarly articles for human trafficking statistics, which if I had more time right now, which for my rhetorical analysis, I may research some of those. But for initially, just to determine the exigence or the urgency, the reason behind the need for this speech right now, I just wanted to go to this 2019 U.S. human trafficking statistics. And I went to this website. And it is Polaris finds data. And it has all these numbers. It stops eventually. And it has all kinds of statistics and charts that show the increase in human trafficking violations. I thought this was this right here. Look at that. Look at northern Kentucky. It's terrible. Look at California, that whole western coast. The eastern coast. Terrible. So my point is that this is the exigence right here. This is why Ashton Kutcher delivers his speech to the Committee on Foreign Affairs, because of these statistics right here. Okay. So the text it's an official statement at a hearing. It's a speech, and the genre is nonfiction. This is a real-to-life situation. Now, you'll see steps 4, 5, and 6. We're not doing those today. We're not worrying with that right now. It's these first 3 steps that contribute to the summary of the text assignment. You need to know you need to know the context of the speech in order to summarize it. You need to know who the speaker is, what is the rhetorical situation, and you need to have read or watched the speech. Okay, so there's that. The next thing that you have, if you take a look at Canvas, is you have the audience inventory. So we're going to look closely at who is the audience for this speech. So it says, please read your chosen speech carefully, which you should have already done. On a separate sheet of paper or in a blank Google Doc, please answer as completely as possible each of the questions posed. So here is the audience inventory. If you click on that, it takes you to this. So here are some close kind of like some questions to consider about primary audience. What are the information needs of the audience? So this is the committee. Since the primary audience for Ashton Kutcher's speech is the Committee of Foreign Affairs, what information do they need? What are their attitudes about the topic, the situation, and the author? What are their values? What are their demographics, their age, gender, religion, ethnic background, class, sexual orientation, occupation, education? Like, who are these people who make up the committee? What are the expectations of this speech? What is the size of the audience? So how many people make up the size? What's the setting of the speech? The voluntariness, meaning like, are they voluntary for receiving this information? Is it information that they are genuinely interested in? Or are they involuntary, in which this speech was delivered to them regardless of what their wants and desires are, and they're not genuinely interested in the information. Egocentrism. This is the degree to which they care about their own self and their own desires. All human beings are egocentric at the core. We very much are concerned with our primary interest is ourselves. So discuss that. And if there are any other characteristics that the speaker must consider. So I did an example here. So what are the information needs? Okay, so I had to go and look up what in the heck the Senate Foreign Relations Committee even is. So what did I do? I Googled it, and I gotta find it here. And so I said, what is the Senate Foreign Relations Committee? Because I didn't know what it was. And then as soon as I saw a .gov, that's when I knew that that's legit. So they have their whole information on who they are. So I go to the heading and I'm like, which heading will tell me what in the heck this committee is? So I'm like, who's in the committee? And so I look at membership. I'm like, oh, these guys. Not surprisingly, most of them are older white males. There's one woman. That woman, Senator Jeanne Shaheen, she's the only woman. All the rest of them are 50s, 60s, 70s men. This is the committee. This is who he talked to, this group right here. It is made up of Republicans and Democrats. More Republicans, they make up the majority of this committee. More Republicans than Democrats right now, at least. And so then I'm like, okay, well, I thought the history and the rules would tell me something. So once I read this first paragraph, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee was established in 1816 as one of the original 10 standing committees of the Senate. Throughout its history, the committee has been instrumental in developing and influencing U.S. foreign policy, at different times supporting and opposing the policies of presidents and secretaries of state. It's done those things. It also holds jurisdiction over all diplomatic nominations. Through these powers, the committee has helped shape foreign policy of broad significance in matters of war and peace and international relations. So to me, it made sense that Ashton Kutcher is talking to the United States Senate Committee on Foreign Relations because this is a global problem and human trafficking happens externally from the United States, and then those individuals are brought into America. This involves foreign affairs. And so that's why this is the group to whom he is talking. So on my document, I just took some of that information. I copied and pasted that first paragraph because ooh, that's pretty good. I may use that. But I put it in quotes and I have my reference here so I know where I can go back if I decide to use that. I know that I can go back to that website and get the proper bibliographical information. So I put the Senate for Foreign something, the committee is probably well-versed in foreign and domestic affairs, but I think they would be particularly interested in the many ways American citizens are affected by presence and or lack of policies. I think they would also want to be given researched and specific measurable ways to help solve a problem. Okay, what are their attitudes? I said elected officials on this committee are particularly concerned with human rights and the exploitation of them. They are civic-minded because they have dedicated their lives to politics and public service. However, they are a part of a committee made up of Democrats and Republicans, so their politics are different. What are their values? I said the committee members are probably concerned also with what will get them reelected. That's just the truth. I'm sure they also care very much about public service and doing what they believe is right for Americans. Demographics. So who are these people? I said that there are 22 members of Senate. There's only one woman. All of the men are white, so there are no minorities, and seem to be 50 to 70 years old. Expectations. They knew what information they were receiving from Ashton Kutcher. They were a captive audience, and they were receptive to his message. So their expectations, they were not, blindsided. Size is 22 members, plus the meeting was televised. Additionally, there were spectators in the audience at the hearing. Setting, this was a formal hearing. The audience and speaker face each other. Voluntariness, the audience, they are willing participants and who are genuinely interested in Kutcher's message. Egocentrism, while the committee is made up of elected officials who have dedicated their lives to public service and who care for human rights, they're also concerned about re-election. I'm sure they do not want to be seen by their constituents as being inactive or complicit with issues such as human trafficking. They need to appear to care and be working toward an end goal of eradicating the problem, though I do believe they genuinely care. Okay, so that's the primary audience, the people to whom Kutcher is directly addressing. But then there's the secondary audience as well. And so I had to sit and think about the American people, the people watching when it's televised, us right now, you and me, like it's in, it's online so we can see it. So I said Kutcher's pop culture fame definitely brought light to his human rights issue to fans who might not have otherwise given the topic much thought. Not that they don't care, but it's definitely not something that brings the warm, fuzzy feelings. So as human beings, we might tend to avoid things that aren't nice to think about. But the fact that Kutcher is a popular, and I would even say comedic actor, it definitely brings in an audience of people who may not care about the news, but do because Kutcher does. Constituents, meaning voters, care if their elected officials are doing what they can with government funding and legislation to put an end to human trafficking. Much of the audience is made up of parents who can sympathize with the issue because they do not want their children to live in a world where this type of terrible act can occur without consequence. Kutcher talks about that himself. He says, I'm a parent of 2 daughters. Victims make up the audience as well. Kutcher speaks for them as he advocates for reform and action. Okay, so these 2 assignments are what you need to work on before Wednesday's class. And I know it may seem like a lot, but once you get into it, I think that you'll realize that it's not so much. So again, if we take a look at, video lesson, we've just gone over researching the speaker, and I told you how I went about doing that, identifying the rhetorical situation, and the audience inventory. And those documents are after this. They appear, so there's a discussion board, which you can read. This is the audience inventory assignment, so you'll click right there, and you can access that. This is my example that I just went over just now in this video, but if you want to look at that a little bit more closely, there's that. The close engagement of a text, steps 1 through 3 only right now, is there. The document is here for you. And then if you want to see my example, it's right here. Okay, so, we're not there yet. I would like to have class on Wednesday. I'm planning on doing that. I'm hoping that the Wi-Fi is all, the kinks are ironed out and things are going as planned. So that would be a good time to, for me to go over any questions maybe that you have about anything thus far. If you have any questions that are time sensitive that are necessary to be answered before Wednesday's class, please shoot me an email. I will be in the Google Meet during class time on Monday to be there for answering questions. Okay, good luck with your assignment. And